going to introduce our speaker. Very excited. Gage Smart with Strategic Financial. Are you ready to tell your story? Okay.
All right, can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Perfect. Kim, I like the quote, founders who fail in their first business tend to have more success in their second business. So some of my background is that during college, I actually ran a house painting business for a few years. Luckily, I did really well with that, so very much planning on carrying that success over, maybe contrary to the quote this morning. But today, I'm a financial planner at Strategic Financial, so that's what I'll be talking to you guys about. This is our lovely office building. We're located kind of halfway in between like Cox South and Target, over off Fremont, if you know that area. So how did we get started? Strategic Financial in its current form came together about 2.5, 3 years ago. To not get into the weeds too far, kind of how our industry works, every firm has what we refer to as like a back office. So the way that our advisors used to work was they were affiliated with what's called a broker-dealer. We left that scene and joined an independent RIA, so that is our current form. We have 5 advisors, 3 here in Springfield, 1 in Branson, 1 in Harrisonville. Some of the reasons for that change were pretty obvious. We looked for that for a long time. Really, it was lower fees for our clients, lower fees for our advisors as well. And ultimately, that gave us more flexibility to work with our clients how we saw best fit too. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that we see, not only in the industry, but also with our clients too. We see a lot of misinformation online, unfortunately. So a lot of the client meetings that I do, it's really just education. When I meet with clients, I'm educating them on what they're already doing, maybe what they're missing. And really I like to provide that education so they actually know how it works. I don't want my clients out in the public saying, yeah, my advisor put me into XYZ, but I don't really know what it is, right? So I'm a big believer in the education part. As far as what we're seeing in the industry, what I've noticed is that a lot of firms are more or less just asset managers. So someone says, hey, I made this money or I inherited this money, manage it for me, right? Let's meet once a year or less. And I'll look at the portfolio, hey, it grew a little bit, maybe, okay, cool, see you next year. What we do is a lot different than that. We're big believers in the planning side of things. And so planning can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I'll touch a little bit more on that in a second. But I would say that's probably the biggest thing that sets us apart from other firms. So what do financial planners do? I'm not going to hit on all of these obviously, but really just put these up here to say we can do a lot of different things. And so, you know, when people hear financial advisor, they hear asset manager, and they're not really aware that we can actually influence all these different things. So kind of the fun slogan that I use is, if it deals with money, we can deal with it. I'm not an attorney, I can't write your will, but I have a lot of knowledge in that area, and I can certainly provide some guidance if that's something that you need or need to update. And really that same concept applies to all of these different areas. So this is one of my favorite analogies to explain what financial planners really do. So I want to pick on one person. Does someone volunteer? It's a layup question. Eden, do you have like a junk drawer in your house or wherever you live? Right, just a lot of like random stuff inside of it. So in a lot of cases, that's really what I see when I meet with new clients, is they have like this junk drawer of financial products. So all these different professionals that they've dealt with throughout their life and their earning career, they've obtained these assets or these liabilities from different people at different times, and they don't really know how they all work together. So what my job is, as a financial planner, is to organize that junk drawer. There might be old things that we can simply get rid of, if it makes sense. There might be things that the client's currently doing that just simply need to be adjusted, where they might be missing something that could positively impact their financial well-being. So if you remember one thing, what does a financial planner do? They organize your financial junk drawer. This is just a fun picture of what we send out to our clients for their birthdays, and that represents our financial planners there in the office. So Craig is the business owner at Strategic Financial, as well as an advisor, and then myself and Stacy, we're the other advisors here in Springfield. Justin is in Branson, and then Aaron is in Harrisonville. So I'm gonna go back actually. So just a second ago, I referred to different professionals selling things to people at different times. So this is really just an illustration of what that means. So all of these people do really great things, right? And they're needed, and they do something that's important for the client. But they're really not too concerned with like the other parts of the circle and how that affects like, what they're doing. And so really what my job is to sit in the middle of that circle and make sure all those things are actually coordinating together. So as far as what I can do here at 1 Million Cups, everything I've talked about is really more or less just what we do, right? I hit on several things that we do differently than other firms, and I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is to just spread awareness that that is an option for people rather than just that transactional asset manager type relationship. So what are the types of people we can work with? Really, it's anybody that prefers that model of working with a financial planner. So of course that can be individuals, business owners, etc. I'm happy to hit on more of that in the Q&A portion, but we do have some pretty unique opportunities with small businesses. And then specifically Cox and Mercy, not a small business, but helping out those employees with their benefits. So again, happy to touch more on that in the Q&A portion. But again, kind of what are we looking for? You know, of course, as a smaller firm, we don't have the name recognition that some of the other firms have here in Springfield. In my opinion, that can be a very good thing. We don't, you know, we can control the quality of the advisors that we have in our office. And so we know the quality of service that they're giving to their clients, and I'm a big believer in that. So I think that's really important. But then, like I said, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking for today is just spreading awareness on how we work with clients, and that it is an option rather than just that transactional relationship that's kind of been the norm for a long time. Other than that, I guess really the biggest thing today is more so kind of growing the current advisors that are there. But how I found out about Strategic Financial, I wasn't necessarily being actively recruited, but I think it was kind of God's plan. I met Craig, and he thought I'd be a great fit for the firm, and it turns out that I was, and so been enjoying that a lot. But that can always be an option too. So if we run into kind of the right person that we feel is a good fit at Strategic, always looking to grow the team as well. I'll leave it at that today. I did want to include my really awesome tagline that I generated from ChatGPT. Yeah. Again, my name is Gage Smart, and I'm the smart way to gauge your financial future.
Very well played at the end there. Very well played. ChatGPT did that for you?
I did, yep.
Dang it. So real quick, how old are you?
22.
Nice, very well. All right, any first timers in the room? Okay, welcome. If you do have a question, this is the Q&A part. I think the most beneficial part for the speaker. If you have a question, please raise your hand. If there are multiple questions in a row, I will kind of tell you what and where you are in line. I'm going to start it off real quick. Myself and you, we spoke earlier about what I do for a living, what you do for a living, and kind of what's in the market. Part of Strategic, back up. Conveniently enough, your picture was Kauffman Stadium. Was that playing? Anybody else catch that? Okay, you did. Well done. And then Stacey Davis, I met her in 2006 when I got into banking, so that's why I saw it. Stacey Davis? Known her for a long time. Anyway, so competition's competition, right? And being in banking, we all have the same widget, right? And there's a lot of strategic financial planners, not using the name, but that's what they call themselves. So what sets yourself apart? You kind of touched on it, but I guess more of my question would be is kind of what have the barriers been from like the people that you go to that are day traders. I mean, you, right? That type of thing. What kind of things do you run into like that?
Yeah, again, I think it's misinformation. There's a lot of young people out there that are in the fad of day trading, and they lose a lot of money because they don't know what they're doing. But more to your point, what we do on the planning side of things, by the way, this was not planted. I don't think you knew I had an extra slide on here. This is the software that we use. This is just a screenshot when we go through that planning process with somebody. And to my knowledge, there's very few firms that even use this software specifically. And throughout my days in college, I got exposed to a lot of different financial planning softwares. I never saw this one. I don't know why, because it's really good. But this is the only planning software I've ever seen that puts truly every piece of financial information that affects your life onto one screen. And so, how in the heck does your vehicle insurance impact your estate planning and your portfolios and all this other good stuff? Well, that's what my job is, to figure out how do all these things coordinate together, and how convenient is it to look at it on one screen. So that is how we do the planning side. Like I said, a lot of firms simply don't do it, or if they do, I don't know too many firms at all that actually use this software specifically.
Gage, great presentation. You said a lot of really cool, I love it when the hipsters come out with new things, like the financial junk drawer. I love that. When you were talking about wanting to get into Mercy and Cox and different of those things, I started thinking strategically, because no financial anybody's are saying what they can do for nurses, just nurses, or just this other industry, or just, you know what I mean? To where you can like show that, then the nurses are gonna go, oh hey, and then they get talking to, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, no one's talking to them directly, individually, to where you can almost just have all kinds of different options out there.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and hit on another thing while we're waiting for a question. One of the nice things about Strategic is we have a lot of variety in the advisors that are there. And so Justin, for example, used to be a bull rider. And so he works with a lot of farmers, works with a lot of professional rodeo athletes, whereas some of us are more focused on business owners or healthcare workers. And so the nice thing is, one thing I didn't even mention was that we don't set an account minimum. And so even for someone that's just starting, we can work with that person. And so it really gives us a lot of flexibility to work with almost anybody. But yes, we do have some unique opportunities at Cox and Mercy specifically.
Hi, Debbie Rowell with House Theory Realty. That was a great presentation. So I've worked in insurance for 22 years and now I'm in real estate. And both of these industries worry about somebody trying to cut you out of your job. And right now, AI is a big deal, especially for this. So, I'm concerned about it because we train AI how to make us invisible. How are you gonna handle that? Because it is coming up, like this stuff, AI could be a problem, so how are you insulating yourself?
Yeah, great question. It's really just focusing on the customer service part, the planning part. Anyone could go on to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a portfolio. I would argue that's not the best thing to do, but someone could do it if they wanted to. ChatGPT or AI in general is not really capable of knowing someone's goals, objectives, the psychological part of what we do, and using kind of those soft skills to answer the hard math related questions, right? So I think leaning into what we already do is what would maybe make us last longer in that tech and AI environment. And I mean, the reality is we have AI components in what we do already. For example, we use a technology that's really cool. During our client meetings, we have an AI software that can record that meeting, just the audio, not visual, and then it can generate our notes for us. And so that cuts out a lot of time of writing emails and follow-up work, and so it really just makes us more effective. So I think leaning on what we do and making us even more effective is gonna be big.
Hi Gage, my name is Jackie Mays and I work at Health Hub Clinic. I think we're office neighbors.
We are.
We are, yes.
We are, yeah.
I have kids your age. I'm so impressed with you and what you're doing at your age. They are just starting off in their careers and they don't have any money. So you did say that there's no minimum. I caught that in your presentation. And my two questions are, they're young, but they're leaders. And they're making more money than I've ever made in my life at their young age. But they don't have a lot of assets yet. And when I was your age, financial planners wouldn't talk to you unless you had a certain amount of assets. So that's what I keyed into. When do you recommend a young person start? Do they need to have some assets before they can work with you? Or would you rather them come before they make financial mistakes? That's my first question. And then my second question is, if I'm gonna send my babies to you, how do you make your money and what part of their money are you taking?
Right. Good question. Good question. Yeah. So for your first question, yeah, I think if you can get ahead of the game and avoid mistakes, I mean, I'm sure people will still make mistakes at times. It's gonna happen, right? But yeah, if you can get ahead of that, that's great. Like I said, I mean, I've got some really young clients who are just starting off. They invest $100 a month, right? Because that's what makes sense for them right now in their financial plan. And again, going back to the education piece, if I can really educate those younger clients on how this is going to work for the next 40 years, well, that's going to make things a lot easier for them down the road when they do have a more complicated plan as well. So I think as far as, there's really not a great answer on you need to have this much money to talk to a financial planner. You know, our first meeting with people is always free, so they can at least have the conversation, see if it makes sense at the time. But as far as, you know, there's no income number or anything like that they should have before talking to a planner. As far as, you know, what are fees and things like that. So for asset managing, that's kind of a tiered structure. So for the smallest account sizes, it would be a 1.5% fee for the year. Divide that by 12, it comes out of their account monthly. So that's based on how much they have in that account. We do have other clients who prefer to meet a higher number of times, maybe 5 to 8 times throughout the year, and really go into the weeds on that planning side of things. So for that, we have a flat fee structure as well. I even have some clients who are big DIYers. They really like to manage their own portfolios, so they just take advantage of the flat fee. I let them manage their portfolio, and I do planning work for them.
Good morning, I'm David Sims. Great presentation. I remember, like she said, when I was 22 years old, I was trying to figure out how to get to class. So, anyway, one of the things I've found working with a lot of companies over the years is that one of the adages I use is there's riches and niches. Are you looking at going some direction? Because like if you get into helping, if, let's say for example, we have 2 large medical institutions here who have people who have a very good income. If you specialize in something, is that something you're looking at, or are you going to try to be a generalist and help everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly willing to talk to anybody that's looking for that education and that planning work. But to your point, yes, Cox and Mercy, that's a fantastic opportunity. And that could be a really great kind of niche to expand. And I'll go ahead and mention more specifically what that is for us. Without getting into the weeds, essentially we can help them with their company plan that they're already contributing to. So rather than them having to DIY the investment portion, we can actually help them manage that. And so it's really nice because, you know, they're not having to really go and do anything above and beyond taking, you know, something out of their paycheck every 2 weeks automatically. And then they can hire a professional to manage the investment portion. So yeah, anybody from Cox or Mercy would be great for me to talk to.
Great presentation, Gage. I'm Lucas Walker with Lucas Walker Business Consulting. I like the junk drawer analogy and the visuals. So my question is more of, what does a week in the life of Gage look like? So when you had your house painting business, you know that painting houses was only a small tip of the iceberg. All the entrepreneurship was under the surface. So I know what the financial planning side of your business part is now. What is the under the surface, kind of the entrepreneurial side of the rest of your week look like?
Yeah. Well, I'm not in the office a lot. I think Craig might see in my face sometimes. So I go out, I do a lot of networking. You know, early in the career, you're very focused on the growth portion, obviously. And so trying to spread my name around town, educate people on what I do and the way that I do it. So I spend a lot of time trying to grow the business. One thing that a lot of people probably aren't aware of, or maybe a misconception, I don't sit on Excel all day or research the markets all day long. One thing I didn't really touch on, we actually have an in-house portfolio manager as well, and so he can take a lot of that off my plate, which is great. So while I still have to, of course, stay very in tune with all of my client accounts, he can kind of focus more on that day-to-day trading and research type of thing. So yeah, just a lot of growth activities.
And to kind of piggyback on that, when you're out with strategic being only 2 years old, a little over, what is kind of the pushback you're getting as you try to market, and how do you market if you're trying to get the name out? What are you doing in your business plan to get your name out there and get people to know who strategic is?
Yeah, like I said, name recognition is certainly one of the things to improve and grow. So I've referenced this numerous times, but I think it's just going back to the education piece. Whenever I get the chance to get in front of somebody, whether that's something like this, a networking group, grab a coffee with somebody, even if I don't end up working with that person personally, it's always a great chance to educate people on what we do and how we do it. So like I said, even if they choose not to work with me personally, they might have friends or kids or grandkids that could use our services as well.
And for a person growing a portfolio, which I kind of ran into this when I get into commercial lending, are you looking for a baseball analogy here? Home run, sorry, are you single, and hoping that turns into a home run? So what would a referral look like for you?
Yeah. Well, maybe I can just hit for the cycle. Gonna have some singles, some doubles, some triples, some home runs too. So yeah, I mean, I said this earlier, but certainly willing to talk with anybody. And so I'm not necessarily looking for a certain asset size. Of course, we all want to work with people who are doing very well. It's not a secret. But you have conversations with everyone and you have no clue what that can turn into. Had a client started off $100 a month. He received, or he left his current employer, right? And then he had a pretty large 401k to roll over. So you just never know what it's going to turn into, and that's why I think it's important to at least be willing to have a conversation with anybody.
Any other questions in the room? I've got one more. What can we as a community at 1 Million Cups do for you today?
Yeah, like I said, I think spreading the word about the way that we work with people, financial planners, the firms that actually do the planning work. We want to stay in touch more than once a year. Hey, here's your portfolio. So educating people on that. And then I alluded to this just a second ago, but I'm a big believer in doing one-on-ones, grabbing coffee with somebody. Maybe that person chooses to work with me personally, that's great. Even if they don't, more people now know more about my business and they might refer me. So if you want to grab coffee sometime, always happy to do that.
I know where you can find a cup.
Yeah.
Round of applause for Gage.
Yeah.